Hello, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Reporter's Notebook. Reporter's Notebook, for those of you who have not tuned in and watched before, is where we get to sit down with some of the Nine on Your Side reporters and talk to them about the stories that they've covered today and kind of go through the daily life of what a reporter is like here at WNCT. So today I'm joined by Madison Forsey, one of our Nine on Your Side reporters. She's joining me on.
Hey, Emily, I'm great. How are you? Monday is Monday. It's not really my Monday though, because I anchor our evening newscast over the weekend. So it's kind of like my Wednesday, which makes Monday a little bit easier. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pull up our two-shot here so I can chat with Madison. So, Madison, talk to us a little bit about the story you covered today. It was a follow-up on a pretty hard and pretty tragic story that we've been following for a couple weeks now. So, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what happened today was we had a first appearance for the two people that are charged with Elizabeth Spencer's murder. So Elizabeth Spencer is a 30-year-old woman that was living in New Bern that went missing around, I think it's June 16th.
Yes.
Family didn't hear from her, didn't know what happened to her. So crews searched and searched for a little over 3 weeks. They were searching everywhere. I mean, I was out there one day for the search. I know Caroline Boyer, another reporter, was out there one day during the search. Everyone's kind of been following it. They were really focused along the Trent River and some secluded areas of Jones County and Craven County. And it was kind of like an all hands on deck. Departments from all over were helping look for her. But then last Friday, her remains were found in a secluded area of Jones County. We don't really know where it is, what the exact circumstances of where they found her remains, what those circumstances are. But her remains were found. So in finding those remains, they also charged two people with her murder. So one person, his name is Leon Mitchell, he was charged with her murder, and then his sister, Tyragia Parker, was charged as an accessory to murder. So what they did today is basically they have a first appearance in court, where this is so a judge can tell them, hey, this is what you're being charged with. What would you like to do representation-wise? They decide upon a bond, if they're even have a bond. And it's just kind of to establish the judicial process going forward. Sorry, that was a lot.
No, that's not at all. And I do know I looked into this a little bit today about, what they have released so far on the court appearance that brother and sister had today. I know the brother has no bond. He is in jail on no bond. The sister's bond, I believe, is like $760,000, something like that, because she is an accessory. So yeah, it's been a tough story. We've been following this for a while, and sometimes that's the stories, we have to cover because it's news. It's in the news. It's something that's reportable, that's been going on, that's, distressing the community, and they're difficult stories to cover. So I'm sure for you, you mentioned that you had, been on some of the sites where they were doing search and rescue. I'm pretty sure it was you, right, who was out there while they were had dive teams out in the waters.
Yeah, and seeing something like that, and it's kind of difficult to wrap your head around. I had not talked to any members of Elizabeth Spencer's family until today, as I was waiting to go inside of the courthouse. A group of people walked out of the courthouse and said to me that they were not being allowed in the courtroom because of COVID-19 concerns and because they didn't have a specific case that they were, I guess, a part of that day. That wasn't a claim that I was able to check out with the courthouse, but that's just what they told me, that they weren't able to go into that first appearance today. But it ended up being that it was her, Elizabeth Spencer's, one of her half sisters and a stepsister. And so this was the first time that I had gotten to speak to any of her family members. And they basically just said the waiting was kind of the worst part of all of this, because they didn't know for a really long time if she would come home, how she would come home, that kind of thing. So now that there's more of a conclusion to what happened, they say there's just an empty feeling kind of there, that knowing that their worst fears are kind of confirmed. So with that being said, what's important to them is that their sister gets justice, their family member gets justice. And that's the one thing that they told me today, is that they don't wish this kind of pain on anyone else. So I mean, they plan on coming back to follow the rest of the trial. I know their family is kind of split up, as most families are. There's people from they live all across the country, and one of the family members that I spoke to came up from Beaufort, South Carolina. There was another one that was visiting from up north. So she has a lot of family members that are there to support her, and they're going to see that trial through.
Good. I mean, I can't imagine a situation like that, because like you said, they've been waiting for weeks, just kind of hoping for the best, maybe expecting the worst, and in that kind of situation, you never know. And I think it was one of the, it was an interview that you had done today with, I want to say it was a court official. I'm not entirely sure. But he was saying, I'm happy in the lightest sense of the word that there is now some closure for this family. But at the same time, now this has come to an end, and we know what that end result was. And so it's very difficult process.
That was an officer with the New Bern Police Department, a captain with the investigative investigative division. So he's obviously been very involved and been following along, as it was an ongoing investigation for weeks. And I can't imagine what it's like also to be in their shoes to see these kind of things coming to a close. But it was definitely an interesting experience today to be in the courtroom. I had never been to a first appearance first appearance hearing before. So it was definitely interesting to see how the process worked too.
Right. And what was the tone of that courtroom today? I mean, you said they weren't allowing family in, but obviously, some media were allowed in to get footage of that court appearance today. So what was the tone kind of in the courtroom this morning?
Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure how the situation with the family had gone down, if it was that they got there too early, because I know when I had gone there originally, when first appearances for the day started at 9, there was a little bit of a mix-up about where I was supposed to go, so I can see how maybe things got shuffled around, because they had us in a completely separate courtroom, anticipating the media kind of surrounding the case. So they had us in a completely separate courtroom. But it's all business. It's serious. I mean, the judge tells you as a reporter whether or not they'd like to be on camera, and the judge rules in their courtroom, so you have to respect those wishes. So there's some parameters of what you can film, but there's no emotion. At least today, there wasn't a lot of emotion. There wasn't a lot of emotion from Mitchell or Parker. Mitchell definitely seemed to be unfazed. Parker was a little more vocal, and you could see a little bit more emotion on her face, but I wouldn't say it was any kind of outburst or that there was kind of an emotional atmosphere. The whole process maybe took 20 minutes to see both of them come through. So I think it's different in the fact that since there was media attention surrounding it, it was kind of isolated and probably went a little bit quicker than other first appearances. But it was definitely a somber, serious courtroom, and I have a feeling that as this case plays out, it'll probably continue to be that way.
Oh yeah, I know. I believe the next court appearance for the brother and sister is, I want to say July 28th, I believe is their next appearance, right? Okay.
July 28th.
Yeah. So we're going to, WNCT, you guys have seen that we've been covering this for the, couple weeks that this investigation has been going on. Like Madison mentioned, our Caroline Boyer was actually the first reporter from our station and from many stations in our area to speak with the family. They reached out to her and wanted to speak on her behalf and where they were coming from an emotional standpoint. So our Caroline Boyer got to speak with the family, I want to say twice, before this wrapped up on Friday. And we even got a text. We have a group chat as reporters to, talk about things throughout our day. And when we got that news on Friday as reporters that the remains of Elizabeth Spencer had been found, Caroline was actually on her way to interview with the family and get some footage and look more into that. And so she was telling us, that she was just crying her eyes out in the car over, because as a reporter, yes, we're reporting on things from an objective standpoint, but there's a lot of emotions involved. You get invested in these people and their stories and their emotions, and it's difficult. And I mean, especially something like this where you have to kind of stand back and just report objectively and just try to be that voice for those people and, you know, share the information and the facts with the public. It's still very difficult.
Yeah, it's delicate. And Caroline, even more so, having sat down with her dad and her stepmom, I think felt that even more than I had or anyone else had.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, these are things that even if we're not talking about it on television and it's not our story that day, it's still something that we're constantly following to get updates for every day. We're receiving emails. We're trying to reach out to people to get more information. So even if it's not presented, it's still something we're working on. And so that's, I think, kind of how we become invested in stories. And it made me stop too, you know, and just look and, oh my gosh, well, I guess I know where this is going to go. And I guess I know that we'll be here next week and that kind of thing. So
exactly.
It's difficult and it's sad, but it's one of the unfortunate, I guess, realities of something that of things that we do.
Exactly. And I mean, something that I've realized I've had to do with, you know, especially with COVID going on and things like that and protests that have, you know, turned into something negative, I've had to go home and kind of shut myself off. I turn off my phone. I don't check my emails anymore because, you know, while we get a lot of cool and interesting news from all over the country, we also get really hard stuff, and we are constantly getting emails and updates about it throughout our day. And it's hard. You get invested. You want to know more. You want to care about these people and what's going on. So it's very difficult, especially for me. I know I'm empathic, so I, you know, latch onto people's emotions very quickly. So I have to shut that off for myself when I go home because I don't want to take that emotion, that sadness or anger of something that I've seen that day home with me. I need to, you know, kind of decompress and let it go, which, you know.
And I think that's something that everyone goes through, you know, not just reporters, but on an everyday basis. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, and news fatigue is a really serious thing. We get it too.
Yeah.
We love news and we're in it all the time, and we still can get fatigued by all the stories. So I think you're right. And putting, and definitely for reporters, you know, emphasizing and trying to prioritize your mental health is really important. And it's something that I'm glad you're focusing on. I've been trying to focus on it, but sometimes it's easier said than done.
Definitely. Oh, it's hard. Well, Madison, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. I know this is, you know, not such a fun topic to talk about. It's a little deeper. It's a little harder. Stories like this, but WNCT is going to continue following this story, following this investigation, and the court appearances of these this brother and sister who are being charged with the murder of Elizabeth Spencer. So we are going to keep you guys updated on that as much as we can. I know our Caroline Boyer is hoping to reach out to the family again. You know, obviously they've been hit with this horrible news, so we're giving them some time to feel comfortable and be okay if they want to come back on camera and talk about what's going on. But that is something that we are looking into. So thank you so much, Madison, for taking this time with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Emily. I always love seeing you.
Me too. I love seeing you too. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up this edition of Reporter's Notebook, and you can check out more editions of Reporter's Notebook on WNCT.com. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.